and welcome to Holistic Happy Hour. Today's topic is emotional security, and I'm going to get things started with the astrology and how that's relevant right now. Kimberly Marsh coming in from St. Augustine Beach, and today we're talking about the big transit of Venus and Mercury. Mercury finally moved out of emotional Cancer into Leo, so now we can start to feel more comfortable asking for what we want and knowing that we deserve to get just that. In Cancer, Mercury is just, it's too sensitive, too emotional. It's really hard to think clearly and communicate clearly. So in Leo, we can expect more direct communication. Definitely also be aware of maybe some edgy, egotistical styles of communication out there. And if you find that coming up, you know, when you're interacting with other people, just take a moment, take a breath, maybe even walk away. And now, as far as Venus is concerned, she is moving out of Gemini, where she cannot make her mind up and figure out what the heck she wants to do, into the emotional waters of Cancer. And she's much more comfortable in a sign like Cancer. It's watery, it's sensitive, it's touchy-feely. This is where emotional security comes in. And it's really important to be thinking about your emotional security right now, because, as I keep saying, it ain't over yet. You know, things are going to start to get hot again. And so we stay ahead of this, you know, what's anticipated to come by really doing the work. And the work right now is to identify what makes you feel emotionally secure, and also to identify what might be aggravating your emotional security and, you know, causing you to react in negative, unhealthy ways, or to cope in negative and unhealthy ways. So the first inventory you need to do is to take a look at what's going on in your life that is sort of triggering you or pushing these buttons, and then look at how you're reacting to it. What's the unhealthy reaction that you're having from these triggers, okay? If possible, the best thing to do is to eliminate whatever is triggering it. It might be people, it might be, you know, television shows you're watching. It could be news you're listening to. It could be anything going on today, because it's definitely all a bunch of intense energy floating around right now. Now, as far as finding your emotional security and what makes you emotionally secure, I'm going to recommend things like maybe your animals, your pets, and if you don't have one, consider adopting one. This would be a great time to have a companion, a furry friend, something to snuggle up to, something to take for walks. That's what makes you feel safe, what makes you feel secure. And remember, we have that Mercury and Leo energy happening right now, so don't be afraid to ask for it. Be well, everyone. Next up, we have Carrie.
Hi, Carrie Berkey here. I'm the author of the Free Spirit Guidebook, and I'm really ready to kind of just add on to everything Kimberly just talked about. So a big thing when I heard the term emotional security is what popped into my head is self-awareness. So depending on the stage you are in your life or how old you are, you know, that might vary. So kind of like self-awareness to know how you react to things, and also a self-awareness to allow yourself to say it's okay that you don't always have to be on. You don't always have to be happy. A lot of times we view having emotions that kind of maybe make us feel a little bit angry or scared or sad, and we kind of want to just shove them down, when it might be okay just to feel them, experience them, see what's going on, so that they don't come out in negative ways later. And they tend to do that in things like Kimberly was talking about, and that you end up maybe watching too much like the news, and you feel like it's filling maybe a hole or something, but it just leads you to not feeling really that emotionally secure. And I'd have to say that naming those things, like knowing what makes you not feel good. It could be maybe you have too much caffeine and that always kind of sets you off and it takes you a while to come back. So different things like that. So self-awareness, knowing that. Say the other thing is to know that you are going to maybe have some ups and downs. If you're feeling kind of tired and you don't feel like doing much, give yourself the space to do that. But then know if it's going on a little bit too long that you might need to kind of bring in some extra help. And on one level, I feel like every lesson in my book is kind of based to help people have a little bit more emotional security. So my big thing, I feel the most emotionally secure and stable is when I meditate on a regular basis. And it took me a long time to get to that point though. And I do feel like it's hard for people to just sit down and do it. So I have a whole section in here that's different breathing exercises. So something I've learned that it's nice, people do a breathing exercise for a couple minutes and then you try to sit in silence. It's a lot easier to be able to have that meditation time. So we're just going to do a little sample. We're going to do a breath called lunar breath. And so that's when you breathe through the left nostril. And so it's in here, there's a sun and moon breath. So what we're gonna do is breathe through this left nostril for a little bit, and then I'm gonna have us all just sit in silence and just kind of notice, does like a barrage of thoughts come in? It's okay if they do, but you're just gonna come back to the breath, come back to the present moment. And this is something you could build up over time. You do the breath a little bit longer and then sit a little bit longer. And the more you do that sitting part, you notice your breath will just become very smooth, very even, and you'll have this beautiful space that's just your own. And then that's the place that's really nice to live from. Okay, so you're gonna sit up tall. This might be reversed on video, but you're gonna take your right first two fingers and you're gonna close your right nostril. And then you're gonna close your eyes and you're gonna just breathe deeply through your left nostril. So I want you to continue taking some deep breaths here, and I'm just going to tell you a little bit about the breath. So the left nostril is connected to the moon and your Ida nadi. That's your lunar nadi, which is a channel in your subtle energy body. And it controls the mental processes and the more feminine aspects of your personality. So this breath is cooling and cleansing. So like when you are feeling kind of heated or out of sorts, this is nice and calming. So let's do this for just a little bit longer. If you want, like in the future, you could do a certain amount of rounds or set a timer for like 1 or 3 minutes. Okay, so I want you to keep your eyes closed. Let that right hand relax. You're just going to let your breath be relaxed. You're breathing through both nostrils now. Let the breath relax so you're not focused on it so much anymore. Just allowing yourself to just be here. Notice any sensations you created after doing that lunar breath. And then just express gratitude towards yourself. Thank you. Thank you for taking this time for yourself. And so that's my suggestion to you, that if you are feeling like you need some emotional security, sit with your breath and then sit in silence, and it'll really bring you back to yourself. So thank you very much, Carrie Berkey. Next up, we have Catherine.
Thank you, Carrie. That was a beautiful breathing exercise. I feel so purified. My name is Catherine Heimsfeld from Find Your Divine Connection. And I just love all that's been said so far on this topic about emotional security. You know, when I was thinking about it, I first thought about the reverse of that, emotional insecurity. And that took me back to the 12-step model, interestingly enough, because that model talks a lot about how whenever we place anything between ourself and source, we create a disharmony and we create emotional insecurity. So when we're looking to other people to make us happy, when we're looking for our job to make us happy, and again, I'm not saying that we shouldn't be in aligned situations with people in our work and be happy about it, but when we place all our eggs in that basket and we're not connected to source, guess what? If something goes off with a relationship one day, or something happens at work and we're all stirred up, then we're no longer secure. And so it's a really unstable way to deal with ourselves as far as emotional security is concerned, especially since the world is going through what it's going through right now. So I think it's really pertinent to focus on source being our only source of emotional security, and whatever source is for you. You know, I love prayer for that reason. And for those people who don't pray, maybe you chant, maybe you go in nature and you do grounding exercises, maybe you're a yogi and you do breath. similar to what Carrie showed us, or you do stretching, or if you actually pray in the Judeo-Christian tradition, you know, any of those things can clear up that channel. It's almost like we have a tube, and if we're connecting that tube from our heart and our being to another person, place, or thing, that's unstable. So if we just turn that channel in that tube up to source, that never runs out, no matter what's going on. So I like to think of that when I say this little affirmation, which I learned from a friend who's on this path. And that is, I'm divinely aligned on the perfect path. I'm divinely connected. I'm peaceful, I'm grounded, I'm full of light and love. The divine is my source. So I'll leave you all with that. And I hope you have a beautiful, blessed weekend. And next up, we have Stacy.
Hi guys, thank you, Catherine. It was a perfect intro because that's sort of where I went with it as well. When Kimberly introduced this topic, I took it right to the safety piece and how a lot of people come to cannabis looking for solutions for maybe anxiety or depression. Because when we're feeling those things, especially like out in public, it doesn't feel safe to necessarily be around a lot of different energies. And I also like the idea of accountability, which cannabis can really help with in terms of our emotional blueprint and what we present to other people as well as ourselves. So I definitely was drawn to cannabis to help mitigate the responses I was having as a middle-aged woman going through perimenopause, where people would say things, and of course I understand it's all me, but I was triggered and I wanted to murder people like all the time. And I was like, I can't do this. If this is now the change that I am going through and this is what my body is going through, I need to find methods to deal with this. And so for me, especially cannabis that was very high in CBD, it gives you pause. So yes, you still have the initial flame, that little trigger on the inside that you're like, oh, this doesn't feel good. But before you react, it gives you a bigger sort of world view about how you want to move forward. And even if that pause is it and it's nothing but silence afterwards, that was really helpful to me because I wasn't having my adrenals just go crazy and all over the place. And I wasn't at the mercy of hearing something uncomfortable or whatever it was, and then just having that reaction. I think cannabis helps you understand that self-belief that you need to feel safe in an emotional way is something that's not obtained, but it's activated. And then you maintain it through your actions, whether it's meditation, whether it's moving your body, whether it's a great, you're really good with your diet and things like that. So the other little piece I want to touch on is for people who have been utilizing cannabis for a longer period of time and they're not so much of a newbie and you're past microdosing. And maybe now you're taking 10 and 15 and 25 milligrams of THC. And in some cases, I know people who take 100 milligrams of THC. And the studies that I've been reading, 2 or 3 of them, plus my own personal experience, suggest that too much THC, it's that paranoia that we talk about that so many people experience because they've ingested something that they don't know about, that somebody else gave them. And we talk about that all the time, about staying experimental, but staying safe. So just consider going on a tolerance cleanse, which can be a few days or a few weeks, and get your tolerance back down. The studies suggest that anything under 10 milligrams is the sweet spot for feeling sort of emotionally secure and not paranoid and not, like where your head is just going a million miles an hour, which is really one of the reasons that we ingest cannabis anyway, is to calm that down and to get that balance back together. So as always, consume consciously, consume with gratitude, be safe, and utilize cannabis because it is one of nature's great medicines here. And up next is Deep. Thanks, guys.
Namaste, everyone. Thank you again to all the speakers who have already shared the insight. I'll just keep building upon it and talk about emotional security. Before we talk about emotional security, it is important to talk about physical security. until unless like your root chakra or the base chakra is not balanced, then you don't give emotional security an opportunity. If you're constantly in fear, anger, anxiety, then and the basic needs are not met, then you constantly just keep going back to that a state where you just have to keep worrying about those things, and rather than just have a fresh start. So when we talk about balance, it's a balance between the physical, then the emotional, then the mental, and then the spiritual. So each of these balances, or each of these securities, builds up on each other. So first thing first, you should have two things. One, you should have all your basic needs met, or you develop the wisdom and understanding to not let fear prevent your security. So you could either be fully satisfied, or you could develop the wisdom by which you understand that if you're going through something, then it's temporary, and that shall also pass. So once your physical needs have already been met, your mind backs away from the constant fears, doubts, and insecurities. Then you begin to focus on the emotional part. To know your emotion, it's important to know you, your likes, your dislikes, your triggers, your fears, your needs and wants. It is essential to know the whole you. So go within and see what are the factors that triggers. Then when you know yourself and your likes and dislikes, you begin to develop healthy relationships and relations around what your needs are. When you are in tune with yourself, you become compassionate to others, and others who are suffering, and through the ups and downs, and you eventually help them conquer what their fears are as well. So let's go within and then experience a short meditation in seeing what our securities are. So close your eyes and just visualize yourself slowly being grounded with an outgoing breath. Imagine yourself as a tall tree whose roots are deeply embedded on the ground. Feeling secure, standing tall, begin to let go of anything negative or heavy that is dragging you down. Begin to slowly let go. You can see this affirmation to yourself. I am loved. I am love. Everything is okay, and everything will be okay. With a feeling of compassion in your heart, feel the security and the being grounded. As you begin to exhale, begin to share this feeling with your friends and families, and to all sentient beings around the world where they exist. As you inhale, in return, feel the love from the universe, and know that everything is eventually going to be okay. Take one long, deep breath and continue to feel and propel the physical, the emotional, the mental, and the spiritual stability. And take one long, full cycle of breath. Slowly inhale. Observe the moment of silence between the breath. And as you slowly exhale, let go, listen, and be present. And I could slowly begin to open up your eyes. So as you feel the security within, share the security outside with your friends, your families, the community, and the whole world. Thank you. Namaste.
Thank you, Deep. Thank you, everyone. If you would like more information or to connect with any of our practitioners, please go to holistichappyhour.org. See you next week.